It kind of is, but it's not the number one concept that Christians put forth. Right? And ahead of freedom we have what? What is more important than freedom?
Goodness.
Goodness, right? Goodness. And our freedom, our free ability to choose must be in service of the good. To choose evil is to become a slave to evil. So, somebody asked a question last week about our free will. If God knows all our future actions, if God knows all future actions, FA, how can we be free? Okay, how can we be free? God knows everything, right? Okay, this question is a good question, and we have to define our terms first. Okay, right here, this word, free. How can we be free? Remember last time I talked about two types of freedom? The freedom to choose, like free will, and true freedom, we'll call it. Or freedom for doing good. Freedom to do good. Okay? Free will. This is what comes with our human nature. We have the ability to choose. It's a gift from God, power. Right? Free will. We have the ability to choose. We are responsible. Freedom to do good is that greater level of freedom that we have to acquire through struggle, through the experiences of life. And we become more free when we become more powerful to choose what is good. Okay? So what freedom is the question asking about? Which freedom? If God knows all our future actions, how can we be free?
Believe the free will?
Free will, yeah, free will. This question is asking about this type of free, right? How can I make choices if God knows everything? Now, the other part about this question is this part right here. If God knows, okay. When we say the words, God knows, if God knows, okay, we have a subject and we have a verb. Okay, this subject is God. Okay. I have experience of myself, right? I know things, right? So, this word, to know something, I have an idea of what this word means from my own experience, right? Because I didn't know 2 times 2. Somebody taught me 2 times 2. And then I knew what 2 times 2 was, right? And so that's my experience of knowledge, right? My experience of knowledge comes from me, okay? Not from God, right? What I mean to say is I don't know how God knows. Okay? This is very, very important. What I'm getting at here is the concept of analogy. This is very, very critical. Because to say this, if God knows all my future actions, when I say that, I'm kind of stating that I understand how God's brain works. Does that make sense? Yeah. If God knows all my future actions, what I'm doing is I'm applying my experience of knowledge to God, right? Because when I say this word knows, right, I'm talking about with an I here. That's my experience of knowing things, right? So I'm just kind of dissecting the question so that we can understand that we don't know how God knows. Does that make sense? All right, we're speaking analogously, okay? And I want to read from the Catechism. This is early on in the Catechism, paragraph 42. God transcends all creatures. We must therefore continually purify our language of everything in it that is limited, image-bound, or imperfect, if we are not to confuse our image of God, the inexpressible, the incomprehensible, the invisible, the ungraspable, with our human representations. Human words always fall short of the mystery of God. There we go. They fall short. They help us some. Right, don't get me wrong. This is analogy, okay? And the next important point here is about analogy. Between the creator and the creature, no similitude, right? No similitude can be expressed without implying an even greater dissimilitude. Okay. When we say this question, if God knows all my future actions, I'm making a comparison between knowledge that I know about and God's knowledge. And that's okay, but we have to recognize that the similitude is much, much smaller than the dissimilitude. Meaning God knows in a way much more amazing, much more incomprehensible than I know. All right? And my human words fall short. Okay? So there's different ways you can answer this question, right? And they all fall short of really satisfying, because what we're doing is grasping, right? Our human words fall short, but here's one try. God knows every potential path we could ever take. He sees all potentialities. He sees all possibilities, right? He sees everything. And so I'm still free, right? Even though He knows the one path I'm going to take. That's His knowledge. And His knowledge doesn't take away, like, my free choice. Yep.
Does God influence you to go down one path instead of another?
Oh yeah. Yeah, He wants our salvation.
Like picks it.
Picks it for us. God is more of a proposing type of guy. Right? He doesn't force us.
Yeah.
Again, we are, and that's the whole gift of freedom, is when we experience our own freedom, we know that God doesn't force us down one path or another. It's a little bit like having, I don't know what this is like, having a teenage child or something. Right? You can't force them. It backfires. Right? Okay. I was a perfect kid, never backfired. Not really. I just pretended I was, and it usually works. Dang, this is on camera. My mom watches the YouTube channel. Oh. I love you, Mom. Okay. All right. All right. God knows, right? God's knowledge is dissimilar to my knowledge. It's similar, but the dissimilarity is greater. Okay. And just common sense. We have to come back to common sense as soon as we start thinking about these heady things. It's like I experience myself as free. I'm free to act. Right? I'm not unlimited in my freedom. I can't make myself a dog. Right? I can't make myself no longer a creature. Right? I can't change everything. My freedom's limited, but I know that I can act, and I'm free to act or not to act at certain times. Right? Look, I just flipped the paper over, and I just did that. Oh my gosh, amazing, right? You do lots of things. Okay. Any questions about freedom, free will? Yeah.
Not a question, but there's actually, ironically, I recently heard, I happened to listen to something about this actual question, where the person, basically the analogy they try to bring up is the fact is, for example, we obviously don't know the future with certainty, but we do know, but we can look at the past with certainty and know exactly what happened. And that doesn't mean that the people who made the choices then didn't necessarily have any free will in deciding them.
Yeah, that's cool. I like
So just apply that to the future.
that. Right, right. Good. Thanks. Okay. So back to freedom as the power to do the good, to do what is good. Okay, last time I kept talking about this word good and goodness, but I didn't really define it, or I didn't really say, how the heck do you know what is good, right? How do you know what is good? How do you know what is good for you? Right, if freedom is in service of what is good, how do you know this? Well, do you know any good people? Do you know any good people? Okay, think about the good person in your life. What makes them good? What makes them good? You have made a judgment in your mind that that's a good person. And what did you base your judgment on? I don't know. Maybe everyone's got a little different idea what is good, right? Right. Anyone want to say?
Their actions.
Their actions. Yeah. I bet they take good actions. Right? What are good actions?
Being kind and doing something for others.
Yeah.
Service.
Service, yeah, that's all they're all good. Yeah, so we might have a little different values. All of us might have a little different, some of us might value kindness and service. That's the good person that pops in your head. Right? Sometimes the word good becomes a little like goodish too, right? It can kind of get away from, it can be narrowly defined. All right, so what I'm getting at is that we need some type of standard to say that Bob is good, right? So here's Bob. Bob's a good man. Okay? I'm not going to draw stick figures like Father here. Bob is a good human being. I judge Bob to be good. What standard am I using? The standard is our human nature. What's good for us is determined by the nature that we've been given. Okay? Our human nature. And our human nature answers the question of, well, what are we? Nature sets limits. Right? Bob is human and not a dog. Right? His nature sets limits on him. He is this thing and not that thing. Right? A table is a table, not a chair. Right? Because it's got the nature of a table. And last time we put a description on human nature as rational, free, embodied, and social. Okay? And we have an intellect, and a will, and we have emotions, and, well, we're social. This kind of ties into pretty much all of them, all of these powers. Okay? This is kind of how I describe human nature. Okay? Rational, free, embodied, and social. And our nature gives us certain powers. And to be good is therefore to act in accord with our nature. To act in accord, to use the powers we've been given for the nourishing, the flourishing, the well-being of our nature. And our nature is something that was given to us. We did not come out of the womb and hit the button like human, different type of animal, right? No, we can't. We were given it at the moment of conception, or our creation. that we're given our human nature. And now, even though we've been given a nature, we have this scary reality that we can choose to act in accord with it or against it. We can choose that. Like, I don't know, God like designed us, but put a power in us to like ruin the design. But at the same time, we needed that power in order for the design to complete its purpose, right? To love. That's amazing. It's amazing that we have freedom like that. Okay. So that was how I wanted to wrap up freedom and goodness. We're going to move on to conscience, and I'm going to connect it in. But is there any questions at this point about human nature? The idea of nature. All right. Now, as I mentioned, our human nature has powers. What are some of the powers of human nature? Like intellect and will. Inside the intellect, some of the powers of the intellect with memory, imagination. What else? Well, one of them that I'm going to go over tonight is the conscience. Okay? Y'all have one. Right? We all have a conscience, and we have to study a little bit about it, especially in this section on morality. Okay, so the conscience is it's like a spiritual organ. Okay? Right, what are some organs that you have? The liver, and the kidneys, and I don't know what else. Lots of organs. A couple others. I'm not yeah. The conscience we want to think of as like, seriously, like a spiritual organ. It was something given to us in our nature. Okay? And it takes a bit of care, just like you have to take care of your heart. Right? Or you have to take care of your brain. Right? Eat brain foods this week before you take your exams. All this. Right? We have to take care of our conscience. It has to be formed. Okay? And the conscience is this spiritual organ. It's part of our intellect, which tells us what to do and what not to do. And traditionally, there's been two levels of conscience talked about. Okay, the conscience is it's one power, but it's kind of got two levels to it. The first is called anamnesis. Anamnesis. Okay? Anamnesis. This means memory in Greek. That's all it means. Memory. Okay? And the conscience at the first basic level is the original memory of what is good. Okay? The original memory of what is good. Okay, you could, this is a little bit imaginative, but think of Adam and Eve created perfectly in a state of original justice and holiness. All of their powers working perfectly. They don't even need to wear clothes. They're awesome, right? They're perfect, God's creatures, right? They have in them the power to do good, like with ease. Their intellect is not like our intellect. Their will is not like our will, because they're not fallen. This is pre-fall, okay? Adam and Eve created in God's image and likeness. They're given the original memory of what is good. They know what is good and they do what is good. Okay? Now, when the fall happens, the intellect is darkened, the will is weakened, the passions are thrown into disorder, right? All of a sudden they notice that they're naked, without clothes. Right? And the conscience, the ability to see what is good and to do what is good is also darkened, but it's not completely destroyed. Just like human nature itself wasn't completely destroyed at the fall. Right? It was wounded. It was definitely wounded. It was not completely destroyed. And so this conscience that we have inside of us is like having, I don't know why I point to my heart. I feel like it's in my heart. Right? It's in this nowhere. Right? It's like having a little memory from Adam and Eve in us. Okay? It's the original memory of what is good. Right? And at its very core, it's what St. Paul calls the law written on the heart. Right? This is Romans chapter 2. That's why I point to my heart. Same thing. Romans chapter 2. When the Gentiles who do not have the law, right? The Gentiles don't have the law. Who has the law?
Jews.
The Israelites. Yeah. When the Gentiles do not have the law, who do not have the law, do by nature what the law requires, they are a law to themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that what the law requires is written on their hearts. Remember this from last time? That the commandments are just the expression of the natural law? The natural law is written on the heart. And there's a lot of, basically the natural law and the conscience for our purposes right now are the same. Okay, at this level, this first level of the conscience is just natural law. Okay, it's the law written on our hearts, which tells us to be attracted to what is good and to avoid what is evil. That's what's our basic memory in our conscience, is that I should do what is good. I should avoid what is evil. And we have to remember, we are not the source of this law written on the heart. Right? So our conscience is ours, but at the same time it's not ours. Right? At the same time it's something that's been given to me. Right? It's been written on my heart. It didn't come from me. Okay? And so the authority of the church, the teaching authority of the church, or of Jesus, right? Even though it comes from outside of us, it really is trying to just awaken this memory inside of us. Okay? I'm going to get to this a little bit later. But the church is there to teach and to defend this original memory of what is good, which is in each person. And I mean in every person, not just Christians. Right? This is part of creation, not just, you don't get this at baptism. Right? Every created person has this law written on the heart. I'll circle back a little bit, but let's go to the second level of conscience, which is just conscience. That's what they call it. Okay, conscience. Now this is the judgment. This is the power to judge. Power to judge. Okay, and you can think of level 1 as, well, let me draw this quick. So you can think of level 1 as the original memory as like a perfectly clean window. Okay? And out here is reality. And you are here. Okay, and you're looking, you have two eyes, that's good. And you're looking through the window. Okay. This is totally, I'll have to like draw this for people watching on video. Okay. This window is level 1. We'll call this 1. Okay? And a perfectly clean window is what Adam and Eve had. Okay? They see reality perfectly, clearly. Okay? This is level 2. Right? Your ability to judge. Okay, now, there's some dirt on the windows. How much dirt? I don't know. Did you have a good upbringing? Did you go to school? Did people love you? I don't know, did you just get lucky and have a amazing 8th grade teacher who like told you how to live? Right?
Did you listen to your counsel?
Yeah, did you, I don't know. Did you go to Sunday school? Like, are you a good kid? How much dirt? I don't know, depends. Depends on many factors come into this, right? Our original memory of what is good can be, the window can be dirty or less dirty. Now, the church, let's call this church, call this Jesus. What else did I write? Also, just like education, what we call formation. Okay. These come to our aid to, in a sense, clean the window. Okay. To clean the window, to make more available reality. One of my professors always said, if you have a conversion, it's always a conversion to reality, right? No one gets close to God and becomes weird. If that happens, they're not getting close to God. Okay? I don't know what they're getting close to, but it's not God. Okay? Right? Reality. Conversion to God is always conversion to reality because it makes it more accessible to our judgment. Okay? Okay. And out here you could say the reality is like good and evil. Okay, the ability to see good and evil. Okay? Any questions? Time to clean the window? Okay. Alright. Very good, very good. We will... Okay. I'm just going to erase this for a second. Everyone got the picture? Is it helpful? We'll leave this up here. Here's the picture. Okay. Notice how like the window wasn't us, right? It's not us, and so that's the important part about anamnesis, is that it's written on our hearts, but it's not from us. It's from God. Okay. Now there is a few other things to say about conscience. Right? Maybe you've heard that a human being must obey your conscience. Right? You ever heard that before? You got to follow your conscience. And this is true. This is actually true. The Catechism says this. A human being must always obey the certain judgment of his conscience. Right? If my conscience is telling me to not sign this oath because the oath says King Henry wishes to make himself the head of the church in England. let's say. This is what happened to Thomas More. If my conscience is telling me I cannot do this, I can't do it. Like otherwise, I'd be violating my conscience. Right? I would condemn myself in that situation. Okay? Now, this does not mean that our conscience is like infallible, because it could be erroneous. I could be in error. But even then, I have to follow my conscience. I might be at fault for that error. Imagine a situation where you were given a good opportunity to go to RCIA class, right? But instead, you had some friends, they said, let's go drinking. We're gonna go drinking. So you went and got drunk and did go to RCIA, okay? Or whatever, you went and got burgers. I mean, it doesn't have to be drinking. You didn't show up. During that class, the priest gave a lecture about the obligation to go to Mass on Sunday. Okay. You had, let's say you had the great opportunity to go to this class to learn about the obligation to go to Mass on Sunday, but you chose not to go to the class. Right? So it comes time for Sunday Mass, and you're like, Sunday Mass, not a big deal. I go once in a while, not a big deal, right? My conscience says, not a big deal, I don't need to go, right? Should you follow your conscience? Yeah, you should always follow your conscience, right? So that's what your conscience says, you can follow your conscience. Are you responsible for the sin of missing Mass? Well, there's a chance, yeah. You could be culpably ignorant, right? Culpably ignorant, right? You have, in that case, an erroneous judgment that you made, and you're culpably ignorant because you had opportunities to learn. You had opportunities to form your conscience that you didn't take advantage of. Okay? So, I mean, yeah, well, Hitler and just the greatest evil out there in the world, right? Was Hitler following his conscience? Probably. Was it erroneous? Yes. Was he culpable? Yes. All of that. And I wanted to play a clip of a movie tonight, but it didn't happen.